with you here in the guest studio this morning. Shout out and wave to everybody on Facebook and YouTube as well. And if you're watching, you'll see I have a guest with me today as promised. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Father. Good morning, everybody.
We might turn your microphone around just a little bit close to you, and your little pop shield maybe there as well to make a bit of noise there for turn around this way. There we are. Yeah, sorry about the little chicken noise. You can see we're highly professional here, you know.
Absolutely.
we flustered through, no worries at all. So John Carlin is with me. John is the president of Radio Maria Ireland. Every Radio Maria station has a president appointed through the assembly of members, all volunteers, who help in the work and guiding and directing it. And John's expertise is that of accountancy, as many of you know, and ably indeed managing and guiding affairs here financially and otherwise too, I might say. So we're just joining with you. This is what we've affectionately called our sermon on the amount, or at least, and the amount not necessarily always just financial figures, they're very important in their own right, but rather grace and growth and mission and the work of the radio. We can measure it in those ways, and the Lord will be far more interested in those figures than he would in financial numbers, because money means nothing to the Lord. He's got a big wallet. So, however,
there's no recession in heaven, Father.
There isn't.
No.
But John, we've started the 40 hours, 40 days and 40 nights of adoration, continuous adoration, which has brought great blessings so far.
Yeah. No, I'm delighted. We started on the 22nd of September, basically to coincide with the 40 Days for Life, with people, you know, the people who are, or the movement where people are praying outside abortion facilities, and you know we're joining them in prayer, and it's like a spiritual backup to them as well. But we had intended to do another 40 days and nights for life anyway. But it was great that we were able to tie in with these people. They're fantastic people, and they deserve all the support they get as well, because they're really at the coalface. Mm-hmm. They're standing on the streets in all types of weather, and sometimes their presence isn't exactly welcomed, but I think they do a magnificent job, and just God bless every one of them. You know, they really are.
Yeah, just a prayer for presence. I was reading, when I was on retreat, reading Cardinal Pell's book. Cardinal Pell makes his appeal, the first volume of his prison diary. But the prison warders were always very impressed when they heard that there was people keeping vigil and prayer outside the prison on his behalf. You know?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic witness, and you know, like it's like, what more can you do? It's you say it's a prayerful witness and it's a peaceful witness, and the people that I know who are doing it, and I've got to know a lot of them very well now in the last number of weeks, but their hearts are really in it, and they're in it for the right reasons. They're there for the protection of the unborn, and they're, you know, I'm fairly certain that they have the courage and the commitment to continue with what they're doing, and that they will continue to do this until such time as the lives of the unborn are protected in this country and abroad. And it's fantastic to hear some of the evidence they have coming back, you know, of people who would approach them and say, it was by your presence here that, you know, I decided not to go ahead with the abortion. You know, and like, I think there was a lady telling me that one young girl came forward and told them that she was actually on the table, you know, waiting for the procedure to happen, and she heard them praying outside, and she got up and left. Mm-hmm. Now that's a very powerful witness, and it's, you know, it's, to me, it's also a very tangible witness. You can see it, and it's where we need to be. You know, as Catholics, as Christians in today's world, that's where we need to be. And it's funny because there was a couple brought in a little baby here last night for the Adoration, and we were sitting there, you know, as we normally are, in silence, and the next minute you could hear this little child, you know, gurgling away in the background, and it just struck me that there was two things. The first one is, you know, for us to get into for us to get to heaven, we have to be like that little child. And the second thing, isn't it a lovely witness, and it's a great reminder for us, you know, as to why we're actually here and why we're actually praying. Because sometimes you lose that, you know, sense of purpose, let's say. But to see a little child like that, And I actually went up afterwards and I thanked the parents for bringing the child in. I said it's wonderful to actually see her, because we forget, sometimes I think that very often in modern society we try and immunise ourselves from the decisions that we're making as a society. And to see a little child like that is just you can't but ignore. And like everybody loves cuddling a little child and saying, and playing around and playing with it, and the parents were doing that. And to think that there are couples, young women who today in this country will make a decision where they won't get that opportunity, and I think that's incredibly sad. And I also think that as a society, our own society here in Ireland, we're far better than that. This is not what we were, brought into the world, to stop somebody else from coming into the world, because that's essentially what we're doing. And I think, that someday we'll sit down and the penny will drop, and because you can try and, immunise yourself all you want, but eventually you have to come face to face with the reality of the decisions that you're making. And I think, there's a lot of people who will be fairly upset with themselves when they realise, what they've put forward or what they're promoting for whatever reason. There's always a better way.
Sure.
So that's
great, and thank God for the wonderful prayer just to bring that out and allow the light of God's grace to reflect on that. And just to thank, really, if I may, and because this is always a lovely moment to thank all our dear listeners and friends and supporters, the wonderful people who are coming in to spend time with the Lord here, and overnight as well, sacrificing themselves and their time and their other duties to come and be with the Lord. And we've had a number of listeners who otherwise would love to come, excuse me, but they're in solidarity with us. Lovely text message this morning, I mentioned it earlier as well, Catherine, who said she was awake during the night and joining with those in adoration during the night hours here in solidarity. Then Terry was another lady who was in touch. Jean and Sheila were two more names just the other day. Said, look, we can't make it to the studio, but we're with you in prayer and doing our own adoration locally.
Yeah. And I can add my mum to that.
Yeah, good.
She rings me every day to say she's done her hour, and she's sort of confined to barracks, although she wouldn't admit that. But no, it's incredible that, and this is what we're trying to do. It's not about, it's great that we're able to maintain a continual presence, in the divine presence here in the studio. It really is. It's just like, I'm absolutely certain that the graces that are grown from that, like we'll never see them. But I think, in the overall scheme of things, we're doing the sowing, but we're hoping that somebody else will at some stage in the future come in and reap what we have actually sowed. But it's I'd love to see this becoming like a national movement, for the want of a better term, like where people right throughout the country, where, like, let's say if there was a, and I know that there are, don't get me wrong, I know that we're not unique in what we're doing, but that people would take on 40 days for life, 40 days and nights for life, right in every diocese in the country or whatever, but that, and that this is what we need to do. And I think, at the moment, as I say, the graces that are grown from here are just momentous. But if you can imagine if that was in 25 other locations throughout the country, and I think that's what the Lord is waiting for. It's like we're waiting for like a tsunami of prayer just to come across the whole country. At the moment, we're living in a country that's covered in like it's a spiritual darkness. There's a spiritual blindness, and this is the only way that that we can confront that or try and eradicate it or whatever. And I think that's what's going to happen. And it was funny. I was sitting in the office the other day, and somebody sent me one of these little, like the home jobbies, but it was like I forget what it was. It was basically like everybody and somebody and nobody decided that something needed to be done, and it ended up everybody knows what I'm talking about. It ended up that nobody did it. But please don't be the people who didn't do it. Let's be the people who actually do it. And I think again that when people realise that we can do it, if again, like you started off by saying, like, I was like an accountant, but business, whatever it is, one of the first things we do, we always say, what will success look like, and can we achieve that? For me, success is that we remove abortion from Ireland. Okay, and how do we achieve that? the first thing that we need to do is get on our knees and beg God. And again, you're talking about a sacrifice. In one way it is, we're giving up our time, but in another way, the privilege far outweighs any sacrifice. Where we're able to come in as ordinary human beings and sit in front of God and just pray to Him and ask Him for things that we need in our lives, and He reacts. And that's that's a huge privilege, and it's not something that we can underestimate or take for granted. I think we all need to get out there, and we all need to be proactive, and we all need to do it in faith, because I'm fairly certain that to continue on the path that we are on, we're going to get what we want, and that's achievable. And the first thing you've got to say to yourself is, this is achievable. It's not a token response to what's going on in our country. This is a very definite, purpose-filled response that we are going to remove abortion from our Irish culture, from our psyche, and from actually happening in our hospitals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and calling down God's grace to knock those walls of Jericho, that seek first the things of God. All these other things will be added unto you.
Yeah.
And not just that, I mean, you can extend it into the broader sense of a culture of life, meaning, yes, the protection of life in the womb, but also the sustaining and the cultivating of an authentic, well-lived life of virtue, of holiness, of self-sacrificing, that faith brings into a person's life. It's transformational.
Yeah, like when you're sitting in front of the Blessed Sacrament, there's a transfiguration happening, not to Jesus, to us, and you can see it. Like I know Father Ross used to say, it was a bit like somebody going and they wanted to get a tan, so they went to a tanning machine, and after a while you could see the difference. You couldn't see it right away, but you could see it over a period of time. And adoration is something similar to that. And again, like what I find with people who are, as you say, they have faith. They want to sit, they want to do their adoration, they're pleading with God. The one thing that they all have is happiness. I've very rarely seen somebody sitting, in an adoration oratory with a gloomy look on their face. They're grace-filled. There's a joy in their lives. And, this is something that the secular world doesn't offer. Well, sorry, it might offer, but there's a deceit there. It doesn't fulfill. But the grace of God does. And and that's very obvious, I think, to anybody who comes in here. At the minute you hit the front door, you realise that there's something really special going on here, but the world doesn't give you that, and that's the sad thing for all those people who have yet to find their faith. And the other thing that I have become more aware of, I think, in the last while, is that there's a real false compassion in our culture today, as regards how do you deal with a young lady who is in that particular situation where she's pregnant and she doesn't know what to do. Basically, it's a false compassion, and what the media will tell her is that the progressive thing to do is to not have the child, to have an abortion. And I can tell you now today, there is nothing progressive about abortion. It's a lie. So like when they talk about we're progressive, we're a liberal society, thanks, this is great, and all the rest of it, it's a lie. Because the fallout from that, to the people, well, first and foremost to the baby, and to the mother, and to the father, and to the families, subsequently, is just overwhelming. And a lot of people can't actually cope with that, until they come back to faith. So that's really what we're dealing with. We're talking about protecting the child, we're talking about protecting the mother, and we're talking about protecting the father and the extended family and society and their communities as well. So I think it's the most important ministry that people in faith can have at this particular point in time, because it attacks really at the heart of what God has given us, which is life. Mm-hmm. And so time will tell.
Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful initiative. So if you just joined us, John Carlin, our president, is joining me at the microphone today. We're speaking of our 40 days and 40 nights of continuous adoration here in our studio chapel, and thanks again to all who are involved in that and spending time with the Lord, and the blessings that flow from faith into life. and into eternal life ultimately too is the ultimate goal. And so this is something that cannot be measured in any shape, size or form by statistics or by even by listenership, even though we'd like to see all these things grow. But in terms of the value, which is one of the things you're strong on, John, you can't put a value on this. I mean, you couldn't put a price. You wouldn't even attempt, even if one life is saved.
And again, coming back to the situation we had last night, you see that little baby, and I had 3 of them of my own, and it was great to actually hold them, and they're up. Everybody knows what it's like. When there's a child in the presence, everybody wants to play with it and Google at it, and all the rest. And that's really what we're praying for, that becomes something that we're seeing again. We're back to it. It's a positive. It's a really positive. It's a beautiful thing. And very often when we're sitting down saying the rosary and we're coming to the third joyful mystery, you can imagine the baby Jesus and Our Lady holding him and Joseph holding him and all. It's just every situation like that is the same, it should be the same. And to think that there's actually people who are trying to tell young girls who are really vulnerable that the best thing they can do is kill that child. And that's to me, I just can't get my head around that. There has to be another way. There has to be a better way. And I'm repeating myself now, but we need to hammer that one home. That that's a false compassion. There's the deceit, the deceit in that. It's a huge lie, and we know who the master of lies is, and this is where it's all coming from. So that's why the best way to deal with that is to get on our knees and pray. And please don't leave it to somebody else to do. Everybody, I've said it before, if you want to know what a pro-life intercessory prayer warrior looks like, look in the mirror. It's you. Everybody who's listening, it's you. So you need to take that on, and and we're not asking people to go out and start marching up and down the streets. That's not what it's about at all. This is about sitting at home or standing prayerfully at a sidewalk and just praying, keeping your head down and praying. Surrender it all to God and trust. And and I think that's the best way that we can change the hearts and minds, because that's really what it's about. It's about changing hearts and minds of the people who live in the same country as ourselves and indeed abroad. Because it's a huge problem right throughout the world.
It is, and the wave has swept over our own shores now as well. So we've 2 weeks complete, or a little over 2 weeks now, of our 40 days. So there's still time. If you'd like to join us, you'll be very welcome to sign up for it. There's a dedicated mobile number that John and Paula organise all the hours and shifts and so on. But do send us in your contact details if you'd like to participate in it and come to visit us here. We just orchestrate and organise the times naturally and the numbers of people attending. So the numbers here is always 089 467 2000 to text and WhatsApp us. And you can call us up as well. Mary's on the line there downstairs. We'll answer the phone. 014 123 456. Do just get in touch. We'd certainly love to have you come and visit us here. So the mission of this is part, I suppose, of the mission of Radio Maria, and just to mention that and to say thanks really to all our dear benefactors and friends and all of you who listen in and tune in and connect in with us. Each and every one of us has a role to play in participating in this mission of bringing faith and life to bear. And again, everyone's contribution is so greatly valued. Our listenership is holding its own, John, according to Aidan's figures there.
Well, I won't doubt Aidan's figures. Actually, the figures are actually very impressive. And I think somewhat understated as well, and we'll explain that in a second. But we have the statistics here tell us that we've got 16,448 listeners. But the reality is that there's usually more than one person listening in, on each platform or whatever it's called. If let's say if somebody's at home listening to us on Searview, the chances are there could be 2 or 3 people listening at the one time.
And that's not measured in that figure at all, because they're the streaming figures.
Okay, sorry, these are streaming. Better again. So that's the point. There's usually 2 or 3 people listening at any one device at any one time. We hope. We have this is an amazing statistic. We have 120,556 unique listeners streaming since the start of 2021. And the one that I really like is the we're listened to in 110 countries.
Sure.
So, we said it here before, we can actually undertake missionary work here from the comfort of our seats in Dublin 24. Or 22, whatever it is. 22, sorry about that. So, it's this is a marvellous gift from heaven. And, like all gifts, we need to make sure that we protect it and look after it and nurture it. And, I know you do that, Father. Just for everybody that's listening, we find it hard to get Father to leave the building.
There is another door somewhere, I'm sure.
There's like a trap door somewhere, but anyway. No, it's just like, to me, this is the fruit of all your hard work. Let's just be honest about it. And it was fantastic as well. Just a big shout out to the priest who actually joined us this week. Here in the oratory as well, with two Palatine guys. We had Father John Eamonn, and we had Father Jimmy Tuig. Just magnificent men. I have to say, the sense of the sacred there was really palpable. And then we had Father John Mockler as well, and with Father Paul Glennon, who is a regular visitor here, which is again, it's just the graces that flow from all of that. We'll never be able to count them. With the best will in the world, we just won't be able to do it. And then, Father, yourself as well, your constant presence and guidance is it's invaluable. So I won't even try and put a
no need. But you touched on something that's close to my heart, is that the support that I would hope Radio Maria would be and continue to grow into to priests in their ministry, because it's tougher. There's less priests, there's greater workload. Where are they to turn to? And there's all kinds of dissenting voices from the left to the right to the top to the bottom and all kinds of things. It's so difficult nowadays as a priest. So I would hope that Radio Maria would be just a big support to them and encouragement to them in their ministry.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I was leaving the best wine to the last, but he is a neighbour of ours up at home. So we had Father Shane Gallagher here as well. So he's I know he alluded to the fact that it's not very often Donegal guys and Tyrone guys cooperate, but it was a joy here last Monday morning, I have to say, and it's great to see all these guys coming in, and they're coming in with the right motivation, and it's they're there, they're on behalf of heaven, really, and no more than yourself. So it's and I know that there are issues that you're alluding to. But different priests have different ideas and all the rest of it. But these guys are really focused, and they were here purely to help us, and it's great to get that support. And it's a validation as well, that what we're doing here is the right thing to do. So it's just brilliant, and we look forward to inviting them back again, inviting more of your priest friends, your confreres as well. So if you have a list of people there, we can start ringing around. Or indeed, if anybody who's listening, or if there's a priest listening, you're more than welcome if you just give us a call, or if you'd like to nominate a priest. We're quite happy to lift the phone and do a bit of cold calling.
Yes. And just to give a shout out, Father John Mockler was here too as well.
I did mention Father Mockler.
You did? No, I don't think you did. No.
Oh, sorry. Well, he was definitely in my head, because he was. We wouldn't forget Father John. He gave us a lot of time. He was here from early evening, celebrated 11 o'clock Mass, prayed right through the night, celebrated Mass again at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then he headed off at about 10 o'clock. I don't know where he gets the energy from. It's I think he's got a couple of Duracell batteries hidden somewhere, but he's definitely he's a magnificent man as well.
And the mission has been going on ever since we were last on with you. Sarah has taken her leave of us, but Ruth Terran Hogan now has taken her place in finding her feet as our new promoter just this week. But we've done a lot of travelling around now since. We've been to Tipperary, to Littleton, we've been to Wexford town, we've been to Charleville, we've been to Fermoy, we've been to Middleton, and where else have we been? We've done quite the round of a number of parishes, Booterstown here in Dublin as well. and a few others. We've been kept going, and we're heading northwards now the weekend too.
Well, you've been to the north before, fella. You've been in Noma. I think this is, which is again.
How could I not go to Noma? That's right.
But no, it's great. And we're going to Craigan on at the weekend. Craigan in Derry, actually, not Craigan, and there's a Craigan in Tyrone as well. Craigan in Derry. So it's I think it's fantastic, and the more we get out there, obviously we're hopeful that there's a snowball effect, that it actually gathers its own momentum. So again, if anybody is aware of parishes that would like to be visited, or if any people out there would like to assist us in the promotion work, because that's the big thing here is that you can go along and you do your promotion work on the weekend, but it's to leave somebody behind who will continue that work while you're not actually there. And that's really how we'll get this to the point or to the level that where it should be. Although I don't know if we ever will get it to where it should be, because there's always one more soul.
Work to do.
So there's always work to do. But we can only do our best, and the more people we have to help us, the better. And again, it's great work. You feel it's just when you're working for Our Lady, you really feel the joy, and it's very rewarding. Let me put it to you that way.
And just to emphasise too that our approach is always that of offering a service, offering help, as it were, offering support to priests especially, like I say, but to parishioners likewise, that we are here on air, we're live 60 plus hours a week, and where there's a continuous support. By all means, support your parish, attend your parish church, return to the practice of Holy Mass as well locally, and do all of that, but we're there accompanying all of those perhaps unable to do so, but right throughout the day. And that's what I like about this particular ministry of the mission of Radio Maria. Look, we're here to help you. We're not here to tell you what to do, nor are we going to take anything. We're there to simply offer support.
Yeah, it's complementary. We're there to complement what's going on in each of the parishes at the moment. And as you know, I know at home in the Derry diocese, they're finding it harder now to get priests to actually maintain the presence, let's say, that would have been there 50 years ago. So if you take a look at what the priest can't be everywhere at the one time, but if you take a look at what Radio Maria can do, we're able to get in behind the front door, basically on a platform. So we don't need to go around and knock every door in the country, but we can still get in. We can still bring that the threefold ministry of prayer, catechism, and human formation. We can bring that into every single house in the country. It's just a matter of convincing somebody to turn on the app or whatever platform that they want to listen to us on. So it's fantastic for people who can't actually leave their own home, because they've got a continuous accompaniment, that gentle voice on the other end of the line, and it's very reassuring. I know from my personal experience of speaking to people at home that they just love that gentle voice in the house all the time, and very often, if you're listening to, let's say, mainstream media, it can be pretty depressing, given what's going on in the world today. Whereas Radio Maria is we know from the text that we're getting in, it's uplifting. People actually enjoy what they're hearing. It gives them strength. It gives them courage again, and that reassurance that there's always somebody else there, and that's really important, especially for people who might feel sidelined or vulnerable. That they know that there's somebody else there, and that we care about them, and and we care about them in a family way. Like everybody who comes to work here, we try to explain to them that this is a family, and very often you'll go in to work somewhere, and they'll tell you a family, but it's not really, if you know what I mean. Whereas we'd like to think here that it is, that there's a very much a family atmosphere here, and that everybody gets along, and we all have the single, the single motivation here is the mission. We all, regardless of our backgrounds or our abilities or whatever, our age or whatever, we all have the one thing in common, which is the mission. And I think that's why we're beginning to see, the figures that we're beginning to see are maintaining, and that we hope that now that we're able to get out and to do the promotion work in the various parishes, that these figures will increase.
And so, with all of that in mind, just say again a big thank you to all our dear benefactors and friends and supporters, that you can hear clearly that the value of your contributions here through your prayers, through your promotion and your financial assistance is being put to maximum effect, and great value again in terms of faith and prayer and grace flowing from that. We've been so kindly received in every parish. It's really been a great blessing travelling around as well. And Father Brian Boyle just this week sent in the offertory, the second collection, which we don't normally take up collections in parishes when we go around, lest we don't want to impose upon that side of things and the finances in parishes at all, just simply to make friends and to let people know we're there. But Father Brian very kindly gave the second collection, which was €1,345 from the people of Fermoy, which was we didn't ask, he simply offered, and we said, well, thank you, that's a huge help. So thanks indeed to all the people in Fermoy parish where we visited there for that very, very kind offering. But in terms of matters financial, September hasn't been a great month for us to meet our needs.
No, it hasn't. But in saying that, there's a few things. September was probably the poorest month this year to date. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. And we are running a little bit behind. And we could do with some contributions, let's say, or some support, definitely, without a doubt. But with all that said, to date this year, we've only had to ask, the way the finances work here is that our own Indigenous listeners contribute towards the station. In times when that's not sufficient, we can look to the Word Family of Radio Maria, and they will give us an intervention or transfer across money to help us pay our bills or whatever it is. Last year, they transferred over, it was more than 90,000, I think, to Radio Maria Ireland, just to keep us taken over. This year we've tried to be self-sufficient, okay, and to date they've transferred over 35,000, okay. We've actually given back 30,000 of that, so which is probably one of the reasons why at the moment things are tight. And when I say giving back, I mean we've contributed to the Word Family, and actually there was a very generous donation of 5,000 to the Word Family as well, for which they were very appreciative. So while in the face of it, things are tight, financially they're tight, I'm quite sure that we'll be able to, and I mean this wholeheartedly, the generosity of the listeners never ceases to amaze me. People, send in their whatever they can afford, and we're just asking now at this stage if people would take a look at that again, maybe, and just because we do need to turn around. If there's a few bills waiting to be paid, they'll be paid. Okay, they will be paid, but just make my job easier. Sure. So, I'm fairly certain this is Our Lady's radio station, okay, and this is maybe a simplistic way of looking at it, but she's going to make sure that providentially that everything that we need, that we get it, and I've no doubt that she's probably prompting a few people around the country now at this present moment in time, asking them to send us a few bob. So it would be greatly appreciated. Sure. And I can assure everybody as well that any money that's sent here is really, it's really
put to work.
It's put to work. There's not a cent wasted, I can assure you. So,
and maybe just to clarify that the World Family is simply other radio stations that are doing so much better. That particularly Radio Horeb, which is Radio Maria in Germany, our dear friends there, and Radio Maria, of course, in Italy and Spain. Other countries are quite strong, and they have more than sufficient to meet their own needs, and therefore contribute to the kind of resource that helps weaker and growing stations as well. So that means literally that when we ask for help or sustenance from the World Family, it means listeners like you, but in other countries who see and value the great mission of the radio, and who support it over and above the local needs, in order that countries that are struggling like ourselves and so many others are able to meet their needs. And they have already, so to speak, invested. It's not the best word to use, but it means they've transferred listeners' funds from the outset of the origin of Radio Maria in Ireland to in terms of large figures you saw last year, in around 90,000 that we received, and that's a reducing, hopefully, figure in the years ahead. But it does mean great sacrifices on behalf of others, to see Ireland come into its own, and then we in turn likewise then can do the same and help future radios begin.
But that just reinforces the whole idea of family, because that's what families do. They look out for each other, and just in simple terms, as you say, like we're part of a bigger family here as well. And until such time as we're able to get on our own 2 feet, they're going to support us. And like at some stage, somebody supported them. And and to move on, and I think, to be honest with you, they have great plans for Radio Maria Ireland, because well, the first thing is because we speak English, and we're able to communicate to the English-speaking world, whereas somebody like with German or Spanish, whatever it is, or Italian, might find that a little bit more difficult to do. So I think by supporting Radio Maria Ireland, we're supporting Radio Maria right throughout the English-speaking world, which comes back to Aidan's statistic where last month we were listened to in 110 different countries.
Yeah, marvellous. Thanks, pretty good. Great. So shout out to Angela there, Martin, and Bernadette and Zita and Magella. They're tuning in there on Facebook as well. Bernadette said she had a lovely night in Adoration here last night, so thanks for that, Bernadette. Lovely to see the numbers coming in and joining us there too. So maybe just to get into briefly just some of the nuts and bolts, some of the weightier heads of expense. It's like any normal business, really.
No, it is. It certainly is. Like, the biggest expense obviously are wages. Like we have, it takes a lot of staff. We're here 24/7. It takes a lot of staff to maintain the service that we're actually providing. Then there's the rent, and if anybody, and by the way, everybody's welcome to come here. Just drop us a text first. But everybody's welcome to come here to see the building and to visit us. It really is, and you'll get a kid meal of fáilte there, I can assure you. There's the obvious, there's rates, there's insurance, there's our promotional expenses, like putting all this type of stuff together. We're handing out to all the different, our plan is to give a brochure, and a very well presented brochure at that, to every single priest in the country and to everybody else who wants to assist in the whole promotional aspect of the charity. So there's a lot of expense. Off the top of my head, we're probably 350,000-400,000 a year, I think, in expense. That's really, as you say, this is like from that aspect of it, it's a regular. I don't like using the word business, but it's a regular. Well, okay, business. Insofar as we have to pay for what for the expenses and whatever it needs, whatever is required to keep the service going, to the level that it deserves. Let's say, I think this is a really important mission. It's a gift from heaven, so we have to protect it and promote it as best we can, and that's an obligation on us. But it's also, as I said before, it's also a real privilege that we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, and just so lovely to see all the blessings that are flowing in, and like you say, the constant throughput of letters and emails, texts and phone calls of support and encouragement. I was just chatting to Susan and Kilsennan there in Cavan, wondering when were we coming to Cavan a little while ago, but she's so encouraging and really appreciates having Radio Maria available, and she's one of so many. It's really lovely to hear that. Our time has slipped away from us, as always, John. So, as always, maybe just a big thank you. We're so grateful.
No, seriously, we are grateful to all the listeners, and as I said, it never amazes me, people's generosity. So, yeah, just a real big thank you to everybody that's listening, and we'll just continue to try and do our best, and to keep the mission going, because that's our number one focus.
Amen to that.
I thank you, fella, as well.
Sure.
It's we're going to put some kind of a time limit on you here.
Yes, my life is orchestrated in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
It's a privilege again, and a great joy and a blessing I never envisaged as a priest from day one either. So our time is gone, and my opportunity to thank you as well, John, because you put in the hours too, and your enthusiasm and your zeal, and anybody who's been tuning in from the beginning of the show can sense there's passion there. And that's a great gift and blessing to bring to it as well. So thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So good. Our time is just approaching 12. We're very, very grateful. As we say, we'll keep you in prayer, and certainly are here to support you in all your needs and to support the church and to build up and establish the kingdom of the Lord here in this world, and looking to faith and life in all things. So thank you once again. May God bless you. We'll take our leave of you from the camera now, but we'll pause for our bells and return with our Angelus and midday prayer.